So coming back to this part, we initially installed a couple of libraries. We installed the Plotly, Altair, and the Ipywidgets. And then we are trying to use some of their functions. Like in this case, we are going to use the interact function. And we are defining a function for x, and we are returning 10 times of x. So let's go further. Let's use interact function 1, which has been defined. And we can give a value for x. Say x, say, and so in this case, we are providing some range. So this interaction is actually happening. So I can see axis range for till 10, till 5. So I can change this one, say till 100. So it's till 100 here. And this part, this slide bar that you just created helps us to interact, right? It actually helps us to interact. It's a simple interaction base. The slide values just recalls the function, and it helps us to do this in this way. So we'll change some of this values. Of course, I hope you can also change some of these values and try out what happens with different values. So as you can see, the range is from x goes until 2.2. So that's one thing, or you can actually provide a Boolean value as x as true or false, say false. So if x is false, so this is not checked, right? So if it is x is false, then the value is 0, as you can see here. And if x is true, then it's checked. The value has a full value. So this part is something, again, helps us to interact. So let's go one by one and see. There are more aspects for it where you can use different models. So we are just using, initially we are using the integer, then a float, and then you use the Boolean. Right now we are going to use the string. So here we are providing this part. So it's been printed, like you can see this being printed repeatedly for 10 times. And you can actually set the limits also. Let's say this as, let's put it as 5. And let's change these values also if you want. Let's make it false. That is false, right? Okay. Let's go further and see what are the other small aspects of the things can be used. Like we have been using interact. For x equals 5. We already defined this function, so if you want, you can copy and paste. This is the same function that we have been using, so there may be typos. Yeah. So in this case, if you just compare the previous one and this one, so we just use at interact. We are calling it directly, and then we are using it. Just a two-line for providing a simple interface. So in this same context, you can actually add, there is one slide bar. If you want to like have the two slide bars, you can have the functions as such. And let's have three variables here. And then let's try to return A times B plus C. And I'm going to use the interact part. Interact. Let's call this as a function 2. So I'm going to interact with function 2. And for the values of A and B are given, and C equals C as a fixed value as well. So in this case, there is certain error it brings out. The function 2 is not defined. Yeah, here the function 2, actually we are just starting it out. So we should be, here we already ran this one, right? Okay, because before running that, if you run this one, it doesn't really work. If you recall, I ran this one as function 1, and then I run this one. If I run that as function 1, it doesn't recognize function 2, right? So that's why I have to rerun that one again. So in this case, we have those two interactive widgets out here. So this is one way of looking at it, and we can actually change different data types like float or a blue Boolean values, and many more things you can change. And you can also actually use the interactive functions to have a top-down selections. That is also possible. So let's use another function that does the same thing, actually. Okay, so there's one function, it's called, say, let's call it as slide or, or slide equals widgets. So I call integer slider. So using the integer slider, you can actually call the function integer slider and then display. Yeah, display slide. Right? So this is simply a slider. You can see we did the same process earlier using a different defining a function itself in which we had the variable as an integer part. But here you're specifically telling that this widget is an integer slider. So you're using an integer slider function there. So that's one thing that we should think about as we move forward. The same way you can actually also try for different types of sliders, not only just integer. You can actually try different ones. Let's try more. In fact, you can also provide some values actually. In this case, the value default value is from 0 to 100, right? The slide values. And you can actually change the settings if needed. The whole part. We'll see one by one. You can set the minimum limit, you can set the maximum limit, you can set all those different parameters. So for the widget, you can have certain keys. So slides, we can say slides or slide in this case. See, slides can have all the different things. Remember, the slide is the one that we gave this name, right? You can always change that name, like whatever name that you want. Like if you want to make it as say slide widget or SW, say for example, and then if I assign this function to that, and then if I display, see here the same thing. So you have just changed the name, but again, like if you want to say sw.keys, so all the keys that you can assign to this thing. Okay, so this one is not matching with this keys here. We have to put yes. Always remember in Python, Python is very case sensitive as well as the spelling should be correct. So in this just in before we had an error in which you see I just put key, but I didn't put keys. So it gives me an error. Likewise, if you say for example, if I put SW like S capital and W, again, it gives me an error. See here, capital S, it cannot recognize. Yeah, so if you're new to Python, sometimes you get frustration because it may give an error and you don't know why it is giving the error. If you recall, like we had an error earlier and that error was because of a colon. I forgot to put a colon and then it gives me an error. It means like it's not running without providing the proper syntax. We call syntax the grammatical part of the functions that we write here. Let's try to use some texts. Widgets. So I'm going to use the text and let's give some information here. Interactive visuals. Okay. And I'm going to okay. Let's put it as disable true and see what happens first. Okay, so here you get the value as interactive visuals, right? And then you can try like different values here, like data visualization, for example, or just visualization. So it appears over here, this part, and this part you can see there is a Boolean value for disable true, right? So if you put it as false, you don't really get the part as highlighted here. So you can change whether the widget is enabled or not using true or false values. And let's do some small assignments, and then we'll see we can change these values as we move on. Let's say because we know how to use a slide bar now, we know how to use a text box here. And now let's move on into assigning some values, and then let's try to use two things together, like sliding as well as the text box. I think it gives us some hint here. We'll just follow this. Let's see. Okay. If you just try to follow, let's like try to follow this and let's see whether it works. Actually, what we're doing is like we are calling this widget for text, right? A is for text and B is for slider. So we have a text box, a slider, and then you're asking them to display both A and B. And here you're trying to link them. You're trying to link the values of A and values of B. You got it? So this is a simple statement in which you're having the widget of a text box, you're having a widget of a slider, and then you're displaying both of them. Then you're linking these two widgets with a JavaScript link there for the values of A and B. Let's try to run this one. Here it is. So you have a window here, and then you have a slider, right? So let's try to change here and see what happens there. Either you can use this one, like whenever you change this one, it will be reflected on the slider. Say if I put 55, it's reflected on slider. So they are kind of connected, you can say. In some cases, we need such connections to enable the part, right? Whatever values you are entering in this window should be reflected on the other slider. Or if you want to enter here something, it is entered there also. It moves the slider and then it goes back to that part. So that's about this linking things. So, okay, so now also we can set certain values in this in these elements. Let's try to do some integer slides, and let's try to use some widget elements. Integer slider. Okay, actually it's giving me minimum and maximum values and value. Okay, let's go by that. Maybe I'll just enter all informations here. Let me go. I'm saying minimum is -100, maximum is 100. And I'm going by step, say step, okay, let's put step 1. And the value, the value is the one that you want to see when it is executed. So let's say I give the value 20, okay? And then let's put some more information. Disabled is false. Okay. And then there's a descriptor is slider and orientation is horizontal. Readout is true and the readout format is D. So let's try to understand this small snippet here. Okay, so we are asked to have some values here. Let's put it as 0. Okay, okay, got it. The mistake that I did is like I didn't put a comma. You remember? Perhaps you forgot a comma. It gives you a suggestion here. Okay, so since I told you, as you can see, it starts with a 20 there, right? And I said readout to be true, so it comes out to be we can really see what is going on. But if I put it as false, you can't read the values, right? You can't see what is going on. You can just still slide it, but you cannot read it. Let's put it as true. And then, yeah, if you want to make certain changes, you can still make those changes. You can see it goes on from -100 to +100. You can always set a limit. Like if you want to start from, say, -10 to maximum, any other value can still go from that values. See here in this case, -10 till 100. So you can set these limits as you need. So let me just copy this out because until now we have been looking at a horizontal slider. Let's look into a vertical slider. So here, the same one, I got it as a vertical. So you can try different models from this. Okay, so this is initial part of widgets. So if you want to know, suppose you're running a program, and if you want to know the progress of the program that's been completed, you can always use widgets in progress, something called widgets in progress. So that's integer progress. So you have to put some values. It says values, minimum value, maximum value. Yeah, let's put the same, like minimum value, maximum value, and so on. Let's see. I just using all the things that is available here, right? So I just used the suggestion that is given here from the part. So we have, we have giving a description of loading. So we are having this description here. So you can see there's a part for loading, right? So you can change this one. Okay. And okay, of course, this is orientation is also horizontal. And what else we can do? We can in fact change the slides style if you want. Let's say orientation is horizontal. That's a suggestion. So how about some styles we can use? Okay, so the suggestion given here is bar color is maroon. Let's go by it and see whether, okay, it becomes maroon, right? You can always change the color to another one. So by default, it gives you a certain color. But if you want to be very specific about the color, you can always do that. So this is integer in progress. So you can always, if the values you want to specify is not an integer, if that is a float, and then in that case, what we are going to do is like maybe you can try later on. Like you're going to use this function widgets dot float. That's the only difference, and then you enter the float value. So if you want to try, let's Let's just copy this one. Let's try this out. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to use this as float. And probably I can say give some values like it's like float, say 7 point or say 5.5. So this is values like 0 to 10, and it's in between 7.5. So let me say, how about you can try different things like if you want to play with this, try out and see whether certain things really works or not. And that will be like so it's been disconnected. Oh, minus. Now it's connected again. Let's move further and let's see how we can use some more parts of the widgets before we go on to the next one. So again, as we have been telling you, we can actually have we can have slide bars, or you can actually have option to choose all these kind of interactions you can perform using the same idea. Here we are using it. So let's try few more things. So as you can see, it gives me a suggestion for value, minimum, maximum, step, description, disabled, false. Okay, let's go by this. Or if you want, you can change all these values. If I just want to use this, I can just use that one right away. Or if you want to specifically enter certain values, like say I have 10, and then if I have this as 100, okay. So this is what it creates is it is going to provide a box bounded for the values given here, 10. So it's displaying 10, and it's going to have the maximum values over there for us to view. In this case, the maximum value is 100 and the minimum value is just 0. Okay, with this thought, let's try to use other features on that. So widgets, actually, as you can see, once I type widgets, there are a lot of selections you can have. So let's go for toggle buttons. Okay. And once I go for toggle buttons, there is an option for values, descriptions. And these are some of the default values. Actually, if you want to try, you can use it to try, or if you want to check with the different values that you want, you can actually perform that. So let's some of the icons, descriptions. So let me put this as comment, and I will show you in a minute. Yeah, so you can see there is a doodle button has come. So there's an interactive button that you are trying to use. So these are different options we can have, and you can actually provide some descriptions here. We'll try to expand on this and see what other interaction you can really provide. So in the past, we saw one more applications of the widgets is to have a checkbox. So in this case, we can also provide a checkbox which can actually provide us yeah. So we'll go out and use the default values here. And after using default values, if you here is the checkbox. You can enable, you can disable. That option is out here. So here it says when you execute it, the checkbox is not enabled, right? It's because you say the values as false. So if you say value as true, then it is enabled. The same is true with the previous one where we are actually providing the false value and then you're typing it out the second time. Let's have a drop down widgets. Drop down, and then let's see, it gives me some options here. Let's change it something. Let's say let's have more 3, 4, 5. Okay. So you're going to have a drop down here, and the value begins at 2, and this number are been described here. Or I can change this as, say, for example, ranks. So it has changed as ranks, and you can select from 1 to 5. So the selection option is there. So it's like a drop down options. In the same drop down options, you can also have this is a numerical values that we are providing here. We can also provide say certain string values for each of those options. Let's try to do that. Let's see widgets. Okay. Drop down. In these options, I'm going to change a little bit of these options to some text values. So options 1 as 1, 2 as 2, 3 as 3, 4 as 4. And then let's starts with 3, for instance. See here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can actually provide a different mode of interactions here. Okay, now let's it just showed us an option, right, for radio button. Let's try the radio button here. Widgets for radio buttons. Okay, so in this options, why not we change these as say Coke, Fanta, and say Sprite. And let's start with the values, some particular values you want to start with, say Coke. Let's put the description as choose your yeah. So there should be some things that I mentioned here, error. So you can see it should be widgets. I just put widget. So that's a spelling mistake. Okay. So you're asked to choose your drinks, and then you have Coke, Fanta, Sprite options to check from, right? So likewise, you can always change these options and descriptions and see what are the different things you can do. So this is a radio button, but still if you want to have the widget selections, and in this case, let's say, okay, let's just go by this options. Like options are Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and the values chosen to be Mac OS. And then let's have the description as say operating system or just OS, like in this case. And yeah, so you have choice, OS choice are given like Linux, Windows, and these options. Okay, so let's go for the selections again with the widgets selection. So you have selection slider, selection range, selection slider. Let's go and use the selection slider. And in the selection slider, the options for us to learn on how it looks like we are given with the scrambled egg, sunny side up, or poach ovaries. Okay. Okay, there is a syntax error here. Let's see. Maybe we can think about using certain specific informations like let's say disabled false, perhaps continuous false, orientation horizontal, readout true. Okay. We can try to figure out this part. Okay, so now it's working. So you can select those different types using a slide bar, right? Okay. So this is a simple introduction that we have for the widgets, but there's a lot of informations available. In fact, tons and tons of informations are available. Just go through it and just try to use all functions and see if maybe in the future, maybe you might be willing to use some of those functions, some of the interactive functions that are available. So that's one thing. Now let's move on to the next one is plotty. Let's talk about plotty. Let's import plotty. Plotly as plotly express as px. So it's convenient for us to use px, but if you want, I'll use plx. So it's all depends on you. So the suggestion given is px, but if you want to use plx, so let's use it as plx. And you're having the data frame equals plx dot data. So it's actually giving us a suggestion for Gapminer. In fact, I think let's try to catch this up. So it gives us the geographic information, some information about the countries. In this case, it refers to the countries and Asia, continent, and all this information like population and so on. Let's we want to use plot functions. So let's say we are going to use let's use the iris. We have the iris data set, right? So let's try to use that one. df equals plx dot data dot iris. So we're going to use this data, and let's try to use a figure for the plot. Figure equals plx dot scattered. So here's the option. We have x sepal width, y sepal length, color species, and then size as it shows to hover around. So let me use this. Okay. So as you can see, so this is this iris data set. We have been using a scattered plot to plot it. But in this case, the only difference is that you are trying to interact, right? So as you move into this part, it gives you specific values within the graph. Did you notice that? So when you go here, it gives you a specific value about the sepal width, sepal length, petal width of all the data points you can actually see. So this is good for certain presentations while you make presentations. If you want to show specific values, for example, this one hidden between those two or three green points, we have a red points there. So if you want to very specific about this, say versicolor species, you can point this one which is embedded between all other things. So in many of the presentations, this kind of things that you may have to highlight it. So specifically for that particular value, it is over here, right? So you can mention some values based on that. So it's one of the useful tools actually we have, and that's very good if you actually show by means of interactive parts. Let's try to do more interactions in using different plots. Of course, you are familiar with the scattered plot, and now we have the interactions in the scattered plot. But we can also use other plots like a violin plot, for example, or the trend line. Use you can use different plots for this data. So let's copy this out. Let's change a bit, and let's see uh, what you can use. Say, let's say marginal for x. So let me say marginal for y. Let's use violin. And then marginal for x. Okay, let's say box. Box is another option that you have. It's kind of a box plot. And then you can go for certain trend line. Yeah, trend line equals wireless. Okay. While wireless is nothing but the ordinary linear, like a linear regression, you have a ordinary least square, right? So that option, OLS, is chosen for the linear least square, ordinary uh, linear regression part in which you have a ordinary least square that is being used for the trend line. And I think that should be enough, I guess. Okay. So here again, you have a box square for x and the violin plot for the y. and the interaction is over there. And again, you can see the trend line for each of that. So when you have a box plot, you can clearly see the mean value of say blue color, in this case Sentosa, and what is its first quarter, what is its second quarter, what are the outliers, all things you can literally see a scatter plot on one side and a box plot on the other side. The same way you can also see the violin plot here. So it also gives us a clear idea about the ranges of each of those species. You can see clearly the blue one is far away from the I mean, when I say blue one, when I say far away, I mean in terms of their data. The sepal length is only until here, right? Whereas green one goes until the top. So the variation between these length is clearly seen. And you can see this data is kind of fat within this range, because almost all their flowers are in this range. But there is a narrow range for the green one, starting from the bottom values. This value is almost like 3 sepal length, and it goes all the way till 8 point something, right? Yeah. So that's an advantage. And just for the sake of clarity and other purpose, we are using the trend line. So which means that you can actually check this trend line, how it performs along the way. So let's try to use more of this information. Let's use another data, say stocks data. Stocks date time is a time series data. Indexed. True. Scatter. So I'm going to have the data frame scattered with the okay, let's try. So here's the stocks informations. I mean, from the stock data. For this stock data, we just take the Google alone. So for the Google, you can see the trend, how it is going along the way. But if you want to use, say, Apple, this is for Apple. You can see in the y-axis, it's Apple. Or if you want to use for, say, Microsoft, Microsoft is a little bit varying, as you can see. So anyway, so that's for this, but I want to see all together. Let's see if you want to use the trend line as rolling trend lines. So you want it to be rolling. And then we don't mention Y, so that it includes all the Y's there. So you have fractions of 2. We can use it as a more bigger values or more bigger window. So try to, okay, so there is an error here. So we can see identify unexpected window, WIN, right? Spelling again. So there is a window there's no numeric types or aggregated. There's an error here again. So let's try to uh, catch this out. So as you can see, I have put x equal to df. I think I used the default values here. So let me remove this part. Okay, I removed it. Okay. So that's the direct data frame with a trend line rolling option. So you have all the things out there like Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and this trend lines. I mean, trending options are going on in this timeline. It's a time series data, and again, it's a interactive data. Okay, so this is from the stock data. So we have been using the stocks data. Let's try to use. If you recall, we have been using the data from tips, right? In a hotel. So let's take that data frame where we use dot data dot tips, and then let's try to draw the figure. Okay, the options are given here. Let's go for these options. In this case, X is days, the Y is the total bill, the color for the smoker, and the options are given here. So in this case, we have the box plot, uh, which gives us some information about the billing range by a smoker and non-smoker on those Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you want, actually, we can change these to bar chart. Okay. So here, next argument is unexpected. Okay. So the bar chart also gives us some clear information about the various distribution of this whole thing. But basically, what we do here is like we are trying to interacting with the graphs to check the values. So that's one of the main feature, actually, you would say, of this whole model, actually. So this is just few things I have shown here, but all the graphs that we have seen so far, even if it is a multi-graphs or a heat map or any other graphs that you wanted to do or perform, all such maps, you can actually have such interactions. And then you can go ahead and you can try to model it accordingly. And if you want, actually, there's one more thing that I can show you, which gives us some information about the species with multi graphs here. So let's say we have been using PLX here for the iris data. And for that, you have a scattered plot with various options. So here's all graphs on this one plot, one big diagram that you have here. Okay, so let's move further down into the next part, which is the Altair, which I wanted to share with you. So in that case, you have to import Altair as alt, and from let's use the Vega data set, import data. You can put the chart. df all dot df. That's for the data set. Just gives us a simple dot mark here. So let's provide more specific information. I'll just copy this first. Let's continue here. Source of the data dot parse. But let's use this suggestion given here. So all charts for this, we are trying to use the car data. And for x-axis, I'm going to put the horsepower. For y-axis, we have the miles per gallon. And we'll have the color shapes as origin. And let's try to run this. So as you can see here, the miles per gallons where the horsepowers are there. But the interesting aspects of this particular model is you can move, as you can see, you can move up and down, you can move inside and see, specifically, you can see the difference between these two. Very specifically, is a grid plot. You can move outside, right? I'm just using my mouse to move all this information, like scrolling in, scrolling out. So this is how interactive it is. So it really enables us to visualize the data very clearly and very precisely. And you can see a minute difference that happens between the two values. Like in this case, only one unit has been changed on that particular section. So a specific part you can actually try to visualize and compare, and all those part or explanations. This is more interactive model that is useful for us to use when we analyze the data. Let's go further and see what other aspects of the similar model we can use. Let's so in this case, we are still using the same data, so I will put it as such as if. So we're just going to change the charts a bit. So here's the suggestion source, mark circle, encode horsepower. Okay, let's pick it from here. And let's say there's a tool tip. Okay, so in fact, I have to write chart it. Okay. So there is a part you can actually specifically in the previous one, if you go further inside here, even if you hover over this, you cannot see the values over there, right? I don't know what value is this one. But here, if you touch it, you can actually see the values, and you can see what is specific data points, like it is which car it is, like which data point it is. For example, its origin is from Europe, and it's a BMW to 2002 model, and miles per gallon is 26, horsepower is 113. All informations are out there. So it is interactive, just the way we interacted earlier. Here also we are interact with the Ultra, but Altair is like very useful because you can actually go one level further down in zooming in and zooming out, and then you are going to use the tooltips. So tooltips helps us to interact more further over here. So yeah, we can try different types of graphs. In this case, we are just using mark circle. Let's try another model here. The mark bar is like not really a good way to visualize this model. So as you can see, circular bubble kind of part, scattered plot is much easier for us to analyze it, right? And like I changed this whole thing into a bar chart. It's not that great for us to clearly distinguish between each of them. So always choose the right one that is needed for you to interact and so on and so forth. So likewise, there are lots and lots of other aspects of this kind of models are out there. Just for your reference, if you want to use a sinusoidal graphs or signals, if you want to move around from one value to another value, for all kind of such things, you can always use these informations like tools that are available out here. Okay, let me uh, share with you some more information before we move in further. I just want to try different graphs here. So let's try line. Here, when I use the line plot, it's again kind of messy. You can't really see what is happening. So the best plot here is the circle that we had. I want to try one more. Let's see. Let's see a point. Yeah, this is like a points, right? This is a little bit okay, but still only difference you can see is that for Europe it's circle, for Japan it's square, and for US it's triangle. So you are using a specific uh, part for a specific origin of country origin. You are changing it and then you're using it. So if you want to analyze further down, you can actually try one at a time. If you want to check, like say I want to see only the one aspects of like X or Y axis, then you can still do that. But I want to use only X. Okay, I have all things here. I will remove that. So we have cars already, horsepower, excess horsepower. Let's Okay. So cars were taken from the car data set. It just we are very specific about it. And then, yeah, basically I want to show you like you can either go one by one. In this case, I'm just looking at the horsepower. And then again, the horsepower, you can also change. This is the point graph. You can always change this as say tick. I wonder like what happens when I put a tick here. See here, while you put the tick, it uses different visual interactions. Okay, so we are just looking at one at a time, and then let's include the Y1. So these are the in this graph, you can see the ticks are there, right? So you can actually separate them into bins, just like in the histogram, you have several bins, right? You can have a bins, and once you have a bin, it would be like a bar chart, right? So let's say you have a bin. You have a bin there, and for Y, you're providing the count. I think I am missing one over here. Yeah. So here we have a tick, and then you're providing some space for the bins. But this tick can be a bar. If you put it as a bar, then it would be just like a histogram. So basically, there are a lot of options that you had. We had the mark dot bar, then mark dot point, then you had mark dot tick, mark dot what do you call it? Circle. Mm, yeah, some of the things that we have seen, right? And mark. Any other things that you have seen recently? Mark tick, point, line. Did we have line? Yeah, mark line. I think we have mark dot line. So we can try all different things. Of course, there may be a few more available on your end. So let's check different aspects of it. So I want you to like try out all different options. Whether you come across some options, whenever you come across some options in all these three libraries. Basically, today we saw different libraries, and these are some of the popular libraries out there, but there are more libraries beyond this one as well. So at this point of time, for our course and for your applications, in most cases, these would be sufficient. because they in itself, like there is a huge set of libraries are available, and lots of APIs are there. So you can always take your time to practice more and see if it is fits your need or not. And then accordingly, you can work it out. I'm just trying out a few more things. So as you go home and you can try out a few more things, and always remember, you always get some error. Every time you do, there will be some error. So in this case, I forgot a comma here, so it gives an error. So it is another model here. As you can see, it gives us a kind of a heat map, but it actually clearly shows the intensity of the locations of different parts, right? In this case, the intensity over here is to dog the density. So that actually give us much thought about what is happening with this data set. So here is some of the practices that we did so far. To quickly review it, the three things that we did today is we did Plotly, and we do some interactive plots. We did Altair. Again, for that, it's quite interactive. And finally, we did some widgets. Widgets are some interactions that you actually have it on the web. And sometimes when you work out a problem in the results output, you want to check some things in the range, you can actually have the widgets. So these are some of the three libraries quite handy in Python. And I hope you can practice more and more and then get familiar with it. And always you get an error. Remember, many of the first time users of Python are frustrated because of the errors they encounter, and they lose their confidence to continue. Just hold on to it, try to uh, find the error. On these days, you can, in most cases, what people do is like they just copy and paste the error in the, say, for example, ChatGPT or something, and it identifies the error and it gives you the solution. So if you have any problems with that, you can always go by that, or you can always find some information online, because Python, you have a very huge community, and these communities are really supporting all these kind of debugging models, like we call debugging, finding the error. So get good use of it, get used to it, and we'll discuss more as we proceed in this data visualization part.